Gridworks here again, hope everyone's well. Today we're going to do another Google Earth video which is related to a wee wander that we had recently on a Sunday, as we do. We were actually looking for Dunconnell Hill, which is close to a small town in Renfrewshire called Lochwinnoch. We wanted to investigate this hill here. We didn't actually make it there that day, and we ended up near the cemetery at Lochwinnoch instead, because what we wanted to do was have a look at a standing stone which is in the local area, marked on the OS map, the local map of the area. So Lochwinnoch is quite a small village. It's named because of the loch that it sits near, the Castle Semple Loch, but there's a lot going on around here, as we discovered. Now, as you can see here, the only feature marked on the map which looks ancient is this sculptured stone. So we went over to see if we could find the sculptured stone, couldn't find a thing. So this is what the area looks like around where the sculptured stone would be around here. You can see this part of the woods here is this part here. Now obviously from the map doesn't look like there's anything here, but let me tell you, there's loads going on here. So let's have a wee look. On Google Earth we ended up walking along past the cemetery. There's actually a road that goes along here, and we decided to go up into these woods because we had the dogs with us. So at the very least it was going to be a nice walk. When we got to about here, we noticed some standing stones in the woods, and we did a bit of dowsing, and sure enough they were marking nodes which are male and female energy crossing points. The female energy headed down over in this direction. I didn't follow that. I was more guided to follow the male energy. So the male energy line came up here, up onto the hill, and we discovered a number of features in the landscape. So let me just switch on that layer. First of all, we found a small power place. A power place to us is usually circular, always has a vortex in it. I believe this one was male. Just check my notes. It was a female vortex with 9 nodes around it. Now typically this is what would be marked by a stone circle. So you'd have a stone for each of the nodes that goes around the circle, and perhaps a central stone where the vortex is. And we've seen stone circles where there's a male vortex and then nodes going around it, and again nodes are crossing points of at least one male and one female energy line. You can also see in this hand-drawn diagram what that looked like. So the spiral goes down the way, and you can see that the energy is going into the earth at this point with nodes mapped around it. So the male energy came up the hill here. It's coming up the hill. You can perhaps see a footpath, or it's better seen on this snapshot here. You can see the footpath here. It goes up, that's the tree. So there's a well-defined path, and actually the energy follows that path exactly. So after we'd found that, which was amazing enough in itself, we love to find places like that, especially when they're not marked. It's less surprising when you find a stone circle that they have energies going on, right? But this stuff is everywhere. Usually it's just not marked in any way, shape or form. However, we discovered much more going on to the north of this area. So my friend decided to go over and investigate this woodland here, which is this part here, and he discovered what we think might be a long barrow, which is this feature here. You can't really see it as well on Google Earth, but it's quite substantial in size. As I say, we didn't really investigate that that day. What we did do though, when we were standing at these trees, we noticed that there's some extremely tall trees in the distance. They turned out to be 200 to 300 year old beech trees, but something drew us towards them. I mean, it was an awesome looking place, to be honest. So anyway, we headed up there, and as you can see marked on the map here, we found a female vortex surrounded by and marked by the tree line. So the trees mark nodes. Usually I don't think we need to spend a lot more time up here. This was the end of the day, so we didn't check whether every tree marked a node, but definitely there was a lot going on. Now, interestingly, as we've seen before, the energy is going into the earth at this point. In the center of this tree line, we could see a distinct circular arrangement where there was marsh grass growing, which is quite a thick type of grass, and around the whole of the where the trees were, it was muddy and moist. It wasn't too bad this time of year, but in the winter this would be quite slick and hard to navigate. There's a slight raise of the mound here as well. So now, on dowsing, we discovered that it was absolutely pristine, and what we mean by that is none of the trees looked ill, the ground was in very good condition, there was no detrimental energy there. It all appeared to be working as it was supposed to, if that makes sense. What I mean by that is that it was all functioning normally. Now we'll save what that is doing for another video. What do female and male vortices really do for us? We'll talk about that in another video. So anyway, we found this female yin vortex. Then we saw that there was another arrangement of trees just to the north. So we had to look at that and found what we consider to be the pair to the female vortex, which was a male vortex, yang. By contrast, the mound was extremely dry and rocky. And I have mentioned that the female vortex area was moist and muddy. A little bit crude, but if you think of how human, the difference between humans, male and female, then this will give you an idea of what we think is going on here. We find that female vortices are usually moist, damp areas, perhaps very low down in the landscape, whereas the male areas are usually extremely dry, usually rocky, and usually very high up or on some kind of slope. Now, you can't tell from either the well, actually, let's have a look at the OS map. You can see here how the contour lines are extremely close together at this point here. Where they're not so close together, the hill is less steep. But you can see here, now each line is 5 meters. You can see here, this is 105, that's 110. Look how you can almost not see the difference between the lines here. Extremely steep on this side of the vortex, which is over here. So this is really, really steep. Now when you're in this tree line, you can actually see quite well down through the trees, and it is very, very steep. Now at the bottom of that area is the River Calder, so it's presumably a river valley that's been carved by the river. So this is where we see the height aspect of this male yang vortex. So that was awesome in itself. We found 3 power places in very short order. We also suspect, after we got back and looking at the maps and the satellite, that there's another area off to the right hand side, and you can clearly see a very circular area here, again with the same 200 to 300 year old beech trees. I mean, these trees are absolutely massive. They're not going anywhere unless somebody goes to chop them down. What we also discovered, we came in this way, we hung around for a bit, and then we came around the side of this mound and we spotted some standing stones, which didn't look like much at first, but again, when we see things and they draw our interest, we know there's something there. So we went there, we discovered what we call a vortex tree, which means there's a vortex there with a tree growing right out of it, and the tree twists. I will do a video on vortex trees. I've got quite a number of pictures of them so you can see what they look like. But if you Google them, you can see all different kinds of vortex trees. I don't have a note of whether it was male or female, but once we had been there, we headed back over in this direction, and we discovered on the ground this grassy plateau here, and this is a raised, craggy feature in the landscape. So this is all rocks here exposed, and at the top of it we find more male vortices. There are 3 of them actually, as we can see in the diagram here. This is more or less where they were in relation to the edge of the female vortex. So there's a lot going on here energetically. As I say, it was the end of the day, so we didn't have much time to properly investigate, plus we were a bit tired. But this is an example of how, look at the map again, all you're seeing is a sculptured stone marked on the map in terms of ancient features in the landscape. Couldn't find the sculptured stone at all, but we found something we considered to be far more interesting and powerful. So I think that's all I wanted to cover in this video. As always, feel free to leave comments and let me know if you find the content useful, if there's any other aspects you want me to go into in more detail. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.